Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, the podcast where we open up the space to have conversations about trends and campaigns at the intersection of marketing, advertising, and impact.
Hi, I'm Alana Ficalora.
Hey, I'm Steph Belsky.
We're social impact strategists, colleagues, and friends who are on a mission to revolutionize the industry we love.
Today, there's a lot of virtue signaling, greenwashing, cause washing, or companies saying nothing out of fear of getting it wrong.
Whether it's a moment or a movement, it still has to be real. It has to be authentic and aligned with the brand, not just performative. It's about the action being taken that goes along with the messaging.
So we're here to highlight who's doing it well, what could be better, and how companies can stop leaving money and the potential for real social change on the table.
Our guest today on Creative Conversations is Pamala Buzick. Before we get into it, why do you do what you do without saying what you do?
I know I was supposed to think about this before, but I didn't on purpose.
You're not.
Yeah. Well, to know why I do what I do is to know me. So I am a child of an immigrant mother who came from Korea in her late teens and a racist father. So it makes for an interesting dynamic growing up. So when you're half Korean but you're 6 foot tall and you don't look Korean. And then you have things like your father saying like, isn't it amazing she doesn't look Korean? But then also still have a mother who's like under 5 foot, very much Asian, very much from Korea. English is her second language, I think. And then also growing up in Los Angeles, where it's a very like diverse kind of metropolitan city with tons and tons of people. So I think ultimately a lot of it stems from that. And there's in Beyonce's and this is so crazy, but I have it on a sticky note on my computer. But in her latest album, there's a couple of lyrics from 2 different songs that I just really identify with. And one of the lyrics is, I am the one to cleanse me of my father's sins. And that I feel is the damage, not only the trauma and damage to myself of growing up with that, but also the trauma and damage that was put out into the world because of that. So in a lot of ways, and then the second lyric from another song is basically the legacy. If it's the last thing I do, you'll remember me because we've got something to prove in your memory on a highway to truth. And so that is sort of my kind of core being.
Yeah.
And just also being a Libra and wanting to always balance the justices. So I think it's innately in me because I think starting at 12 years old, I started to see the world very, very differently than my father did. And that sort of set me on a completely different trajectory of what was sort of imposed upon me.
I feel like we all need those Post-it notes on our laptops. Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
chills.
very light touch here.
We're there. We're going deep.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I just get really annoyed at the injustices of the world. And I just feel that in my life moment that there's something I can do. I may not be able to solve it or boil the ocean per se, as they like to say, but there's something on my time and space here that I can do and provide and hopefully make for a better future.
And you are.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
And now we're actually going to talk about the incredible things that you do. So Pamala Buzick Kim is a Korean American leader at the intersection of creativity, innovation, and growth. She's the founder of Mavenverse, a platform that professionalizes high-trust communities and fandoms, transforming book clubs, craft collectives, and hobbyist groups into brand partners. And she's the co-founder of #StayInLA, an advocacy movement to protect production jobs in Los Angeles. Previously, Pamala led Free the Work, building a global network of 18,000 plus underrepresented creators, Holy smokes. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg of shit that
Truly.
you've done.
Truly.
To say that we
I'm
are
learning-
excited to
yeah.
have you would be an understatement. So thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm learning to just say thank you rather than to make a joke about my resume or because I think we can very easily all do that because it can be embarrassing to hear about yourself. But I'm learning to just say thank you. I work really hard.
Yeah.
You do work really hard, and you've done so much incredible work, and you are making change. So,
Yeah. Truly.
So yes.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
So welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good. Let's get to know you a little bit better now.
So, Pamala, the first thing we always ask our guests is what first drew you to impact?
I think it kind of goes back to sort of what we were discussing before with my kind of early childhood, but I did go through a long time where I was just, doing a job and making money, but it's always related back to the creative human. So I was very fortunate in high school. My father wanted to send me to the military because we didn't have a lot of money and that was sort of like the only option. And my high school teacher kind of intervened and was able to get me scholarship to go to Cal Arts. And that kind of really was like a sliding doors moment. So going to Cal Arts just really introduced me because I didn't really grow up. I didn't go to the movies until I was like 12 or 13. We didn't grow up watching art, listening to music, nothing like that. So don't ask me about Star Wars. So
I can't answer any of those things either, so I wouldn't even know what to ask.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of like cultural things that I missed growing up. And so going to Cal Arts, it really just exploded my mind, especially with experimental art.
Yeah.
And it really created a lot of lasting relationships for me. And it actually, somebody I knew from Cal Arts got me into the advertising community and where I started representing talent. So from Cal Arts and on, I've always sort of been the bridge between art and commerce. So I've always believed that artists need to get paid and commerce needs artistry because it becomes part of the cultural zeitgeist in a sense. So I've always been that bridge. So when I got into advertising and became an agent for commercial talent, that's what I ended up doing for essentially the next 17 years. And I learned a lot about artists and their kind of process and what they need to go through and really finding them the right jobs. And you're not only growing them financially, but you're growing them creatively in their careers too. So it's important that you're feeding both beasts and understanding what that means, but also understanding where the market's at that moment.
Yeah. So
in that time, I also realized I was making a lot of dudes money who probably couldn't pick me up out of a lineup. And in advertising, it's very much a relationship game. It's very much going out, having drinks, being out 5 nights a week, especially as an agent, as a rep. And I just sort of grew very tiresome of that process. And I kept trying to evolve that role for myself in like, oh, if we did it this way, if we introduced software, if da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But it always just comes back to the same element. And I really just wanted to do more with artists and just also affect the system. And I think that's everything sort of draws back to affecting the system. And so when I look back, everything I've done is about shifting that system. And the system changes and who it's keeping out changes or whatever it might be. But it's like, we just have a lot of red tape. We have a lot of bureaucracy. We have a lot of, this is just how it's done. All of those kinds of ideas and things. So it's important to me that I spend my time affecting a system.
Yeah. Well, and systemic change is the uphill battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a long, long game.
It is
many systems to be fought.
And then there's that.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I feel like this is truly all connected, but in that sense as well, what issue area or areas are you most passionate about?
Yeah, I think because I'm connected to artists, I do very much believe that storytelling and particularly visual storytelling can create a more empathetic world. It was essentially our mission statement for Free the Work, but I very much believe because visual storytelling can cross all boundaries, all country lines, all languages, and it really can introduce you to understanding the bigger world outside of yourself or outside of your town. It can make, as much as it can make you dream and wish and want, but it can also give you empathy and understanding other humans in the world and where they're at. Not everybody has the fortune to be able to travel. When you do travel, it's very known that you realize just how small you are and how small your world is. And they always say, if you want to expand your enlightenment, then you should travel. But not everybody has that option. So I think visual storytelling can really give us that opportunity. And so I think when I look at the systems, it's trying to keep those things intact, because also culture moves faster than policy. So if you want to shift policy, you have to shift culture. And it's much faster to get onto the moving train, because a majority of people do move essentially in the same direction and do appeal to cultural understanding. I mean, even Zoe Scammon in one of your previous episodes spoke about this. You know, Jonathan Jacobs spoke about this. Yeah. So I think that even though we don't necessarily identify it as that, those are the things that move the needle.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I think it is so true. And I mean, even for me, that was the reason why I didn't want to leave the industry entirely, is because I think there's so much power in the images we put on screen, even if it's in advertising, in any form of storytelling, right? Whether it is selling a product or it is in a show or a movie or a social clip or a billboard or whatever. It's all of those little elements that show up on screen can really affect people's view of the world, of themselves, connection, community. Like it has so much more power than I think a lot of people really consider on a campaign level sometimes, right? It's so much about we're selling this product and not thinking about the larger picture of how this then influences the greater world. And then you get into true storytelling and how much influence that has. I'm sure it's way more than 10,000 now, but there's some absurd number of images we consume a day. So that storytelling piece and the visuals is so important in how we shape that. And to your point, needing to have diverse people behind the lens and being able to share all kinds of stories. Otherwise, how do we experience beyond our inner circles?
Yeah.
Well, and I love the philosophy that you have, which I very, very much share with you, of, you know, needing to pay the talent first and foremost, right? Yeah. And so many brands still, and especially right now, given everything that's happening in our current climate and world and whatnot, it's like that's also seemingly, oh, well, if we just give you product, then you're right.
Exposure.
Right. Like what a gift, what a blessing to be able to say, oh, I have this product now. It's like, no, pay up. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that you want. Right. And I think the same goes for talent making an impact too. And, you know, yes, nonprofits can't afford to bring in talent who could move the needle for them. So then creating ecosystems like what you're doing with Mavenverse is so brilliant, because you are just leveraging these cultural pockets, joy. Right? Yeah. In order to shift that like make that culture shift happen, because like you said, you know, culture shifts faster than policy. And I just wanted to reiterate that brilliance, because that's how all of this really comes together in the end, right? It's the storytelling. It's also leveraging communities. It's also putting talent and point of views out into the world that need to be exposed and that need to be celebrated. And like you said, joy.
And I think it's important to say, when we use the word leverage, and I know sometimes that can feel like it has a negative connotation. Right. When we talk about like leveraging joy, we have to actually just think about when we talk about communities, I'm talking about your book club, I'm talking about your run club, I'm talking about your magic or D&D club. As we continue to become more disparate in the wealth gap, the class gap, all of the different gaps that are coming much more to the surface and becoming larger, you're going to be drawn more and more to the elements and to the groups that you find belonging in. Yes. And so there are hundreds of thousands of groups that are already meeting and essentially creating joy within their own world. And that in itself is healing. And we already know there's a million studies about how social is making us more lonely. We're in a loneliness epidemic, especially with our young people. And so there's a sense of, how do we find healing? How do we find connection? Even look at the toxic masculinity understanding, the loneliness epidemic. All of these things lead back to, where do you find you can truly be yourself? And so there's hundreds of thousands of clubs already meeting. And so that is a lot of joy. That you don't go to those things because you're being paid to do it. You go to that because of those other elements. So when I say leveraging joy, it's more of understanding, where can we help that book club, like with a pizza party. So if I'm a brand and I just want to sponsor, 50 different book clubs with a pizza party, and that's my way of understanding them and supporting them, that allows them to continue to join together and be able to do those things. If it's a run club and, maybe it's an energy drink or a healthier energy, whatever it might be, we're not trying to get them to use different matters. We're just trying to support them in the joy that they already are providing for each other. And I think that that's a really important thing to do right now, considering we're putting all of our eggs in the baskets of social or an influencer, which who knows, the pressure of that as an influencer, but B, also not allowing them to be themselves, because they're constantly having to be on a watch out, or maybe they are themselves and that is a watch out. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with Mavenverse. So it all kind of comes back to like the community, and how do we support them in their community?
I love that. And community right now is really the most important thing. And it's who's actually going to stand up on the brand side for communities and realize that building community and supporting existing communities, because it's a lot easier to support an existing community than it is to build your own community from scratch if you haven't already been doing that. We need that human connection now more than ever, as you said. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially as we're in inflation and finances are going to continue to be strapped, we're going to need to find places that we can be. But if a brand can come in and sponsor those moments, that's going to create a lot of true kind of connection, and with an understanding of, oh, this brand gets me, they support what I'm doing in XYZ.
Yeah. I love it. What is an impactful project that you've worked on, either recently or in the past or whatever? One of the projects that you're most proud of. I know there's multiple projects you're proud of, so choose whichever one you'd like to share.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to talk about Stay in LA because it's the most recent, and we have a lot of momentum on that front. So Stay in LA was really just created out of a response to the fires here in Los Angeles. It was sort of two grassroots communities coming together to say, hey, we got to do something for the production industry. Because I think a lot of people in the crew side of production were saying survive until 25, survive to 25. And then the fires happened, which continued to kind of compound. We're going through everything from the strikes to COVID to then now the fires. And so many people have left the business, but this was sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back in that sense. And so we wanted to figure out, how could we allure and bring back production to Los Angeles? Los Angeles doesn't export a lot of things. We export fame and we export Hollywood. It's somewhat of and I say Hollywood, I also mean commercials too. It's sort of a one business type of town. And we do have a lot of business in Los Angeles, but that business caters a lot to the production industry. So, without going so far deep into all the variables of why production has left, some of the stats are devastating. We've lost production by over 40% across TV, film, and advertising production. So some neighborhoods are made up of 51% of their neighborhood is production people. So we had a ton of people affected in the Altadena fires. And I think a lot of other people, the state and a lot of the other country, think that Hollywood and production people are all part of the 1%. But that's not actually the case. And I think we've also just taken for granted production here, that we're just always going to shoot here because that's our legacy. But unfortunately, it's very quickly not becoming our legacy. And once that leaves, it affects tourism. It affects all of the business. It affects the dry cleaners, the mom and pop caterers. It affects, the florists, the prop shops, all of these things. It's a trickle down. So what was important for us is to really kind of ring the alarm on this front.
The rally looked incredible. I was living vicariously. I was like, I wish I could be there. Kudos to you and to the team that has, and I mean, it's all volunteer led, right? So it's an incredibly important movement. It's affecting hundreds of thousands of jobs and this whole ecosystem that, you're right, so many people just take for granted, like, oh, Los Angeles and the movie industry, like, of course the two go hand in hand, but not, because of tax incentives in other places. And it's I
mean, it's sort of, I mean, I keep saying this but other states and other countries are rolling out our red carpet, and we're just rolling out red tape. So I think something to understand just really quickly to download is, at a state level, we have 2 bills up to modernize and to double our tax incentive. Now, that's not a one and done. And when I say one, I mean ONE, and I also mean WON. It's not a one and done, basically meaning it just makes us more competitive. We're not trying to be the cheapest. It's not a race to the bottom. We are just trying to be competitive. Now, the bills at the state level are only for film and TV at the moment. We can get into commercials in a second, but essentially what it is it opens it up to episodic. It opens it up to large format film competitions. Like, you have to understand, the game show The Floor with Rob Lowe is filming in Ireland. They are flying hundreds of Americans to Ireland to do that show and ship it back as an American game show. So it is more efficient and more profitable to do that. So that means Ireland is getting the taxis, the hotels, the tourism, the meals. So this all feeds into each other. So
supporting their economy.
Exactly. It's all going into their economy. And look, I love Ireland, but it's like we're doing that too often. There's a cooking show that's in Australia. That's an American cooking show. So all of these things sort of tie in together. So that's the state incentive. If we get that, it just makes us more competitive. Yeah. So for instance, a show that's shooting here in Los Angeles, it's 1.6 million per episode. They received, if they go to Vancouver, it would be 900,000. Now, if we get the tax credit and then they apply and that they get approved, that could essentially make the episodic to 1.2. So 900 to 1.2 is a lot more of a conversation as a producer, because you're like, okay, I still have to fly everybody up and and all these American actors and then these fees and yada, 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 yada. Then you're much more likely to be like, okay, that difference is not enough for us to leave town. But 900 from 1.6 is not even a conversation. So that's what's happening at the state level. What's happening at the local level is our permitting process is very laden with a lot of red tape. I mean, Atlanta, I know you just tried to pull permits, so I'm sure you could speak to the frustration of that. And it's happened over time because, again, we've taken the industry for granted. And over the years, more and more and more, everybody wants their cut of it. So like, for a very simple example is you can shoot in New York on the sidewalk without a permit, so long as it fits within certain parameters. That's super helpful for independent filmmakers, particularly. Trying to do that here, it would probably take 3 to 4 weeks to get a permit, if not more, and it would cost thousands of dollars. So we've been able to get the city council to unanimously vote in favor of doing an audit analysis, top-line audit analysis that needs to be delivered within 30 days. This just happened last Tuesday. Of how to unblock the permitting process. Now, there's more work we have to do within that 30 days because I have a feeling that most departments are just going to give us some kind of bureaucratic bullshit answer. Because also what I've come to understand is a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand filming. As we have noticed today with Trump's 100% tariff on fucking films coming into the US. So again, multi-complex industry that we don't need blunt force. We actually already have tools to deal with all these things. We just need to actually properly use those tools.
Yes.
How many of the world's problems could be solved if we just properly use the tools that we have at our disposal?
It is amazing how much, and I know some of these different groups have started at different times and things like that, but how much progress, albeit I'm sure it still feels very slow to some extent, but how much has happened in the last few months since the fires. And especially since policy doesn't move fast and the political process doesn't move fast. But even just seeing the numbers of individuals who have jumped on board to support the cause, the rallies happening, the events happening, the conversations, the acknowledgement, and then actually starting to see these conversations happening on a state and local level within the government is exciting to see it continue to grow. And
I agree. I mean, I'm impressed also. To be good. I'm also impressed. But I will say, I think that is the power of people. And so when you think about labor, like even in our current system that's happening on a macro level, the 3.5 rule is that basically it only takes 3.5 of the population to fight back against fascism and authoritarianism to shift it. And so when you think about, as you continue to deplete people of their soul and their economics, you're going to continue to see more and more people rise and kind of bind together. But that's really also the power of labor. And so I won't necessarily put that judgment on everybody who's gotten behind Stay in LA, but it certainly correlates with the working class and basically, the everyday people who are in this industry and the communities that they are within.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that totally all makes sense. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? It could be personally, professionally, related to this, related to something else entirely. The world's your oyster.
I think from the bigger picture is knowing too much and not getting discouraged.
Yeah.
I think, knowing how many people are not doing their jobs and not servicing the people is really fucking maddening and drives me nuts because it's all politics and you can't just be like, okay, let's all rage against this person and remove them, or let's get them, it's like there's so many politics within all these different things. And I think knowing so much, it kind of just hurts my soul that we're kind of not being done right by. Yeah. And so just like kind of managing that and also just managing my own mental boundaries with it, because I can get real depressed. And I think when you do this type of work, it's how you get up every day, and I'm a pathological optimist. And I think that's the only thing that sort of saves me from being able to get up every day and be like, okay, it's a new day. We're going to make a micro step in the process, or we don't, and that's not going to deter us from getting up the next day. So it's really about that. And then I would say personally, as we sort of start Mavenverse, and, Mavenverse it's a new idea. It's a new concept. We're first to market with it. And I think sort of being able to tie all these things together and what is my voice in that without making it feel heavy, to making sure it feels joyful. But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of mechanics and triggers and business stuff that has to go with it. And when you're dealing with everyday, hobbyists or everyday book clubs, helping them open that door, but they're not in this world. So trying to introduce them to a new system, it can be and continue to be challenging. You want to support them and you want them to understand and you want to guide them, because that's what's going to keep the authenticity and the core joy of it, and not just make it a business that's taking advantage. Yeah.
You're changing a system yet again.
Yeah. Why do I keep doing this to myself?
Because this is the core of who you are.
I know.
Changing the world for the better on a larger scale. Just doing it right here isn't enough. You got to do it big. And I think that's what makes you so great. So
thank you.
We can all aspire to have that.
I'm just gonna like clip this part. So when I want to throw my computer through my window, I'm just gonna put this on play so I remember that.
It'll be like your ringtone instead. Positive affirmations. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh. If Missed Opportunities for Good can make a post-it that lives on your laptop, we will have done our job.
Oh, if we could be next to Beyonce, I would be stoked. I mean, come on. You expect her, of course Beyonce's up there. Obviously.
Apples, 100%.
I love it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, let's imagine for a minute what would your ideal project or collaboration be?
Ooh, oh gosh. I have no idea because I'm just so focused on what's in front of me. My dream project would be to be part of shifting the system for working class people. Because at the end of the day, all this shit goes right back to that. If you think about what I did for Free to Work, if you think about what I'm participating in for Stay in LA, ultimately, this all leads back to affordable housing and universal healthcare. Like, I know I'm just jumping in with a giant fucking leap, but it's actually not. So
It's not.
let's think about like Stay in LA. We are always going to be way more expensive than, let's say, a place in Eastern Europe. Why is that? Is because their healthcare is already paid for and they have affordable housing. So we can't compare the pricing of our labor apple to apples. It's apples and oranges because we have to pay companies have to pay for all those things and we can't rely upon it. Even right now, crew members are upping their price in California because there's not enough work, which doesn't make it easier to shoot here. And so also being a democratic state that does not have affordable housing is insanity. So and if you look at our housing issues here in Los Angeles, you cannot build multi-stories in 73% of the city. 73% of the city. On top of all the other kind of bullshit that goes along with like regulations of apartment buildings. We passed a millionaire tax, like a millionaire house tax last year. Like we all voted on it. Like, tax the millionaires if you can have a residence here, blah, blah, blah. What got slipped into there is a tax on multi-story apartment buildings. So now when you build multi-story apartment buildings, you also have to pay that tax. So again, there's like all these little tiny, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. So ultimately it all leads back to affordable housing and universal healthcare. So if I had a dream project, that would be something that ties directly in with those things.
Yeah. I think Mark Horvath from Invisible People has done a lot when it comes to the housing crisis. And I vividly remember he was talking about all of the legislation that's being passed right now and that like loophole that was found. It's God.
Yeah. There's so many ridiculous things like that. Like the California Coastal Commission doesn't just run the actual stuff on the coast, but it deals with over a mile in from the coast. So like a 3-4 story building tried to build in like outside, like beyond Venice, beyond Santa Monica, and it was knocked down by the California Coastal Commission because it was going to slightly impede on somebody's landscape view. So it's all, I mean, that would be my dream project just because I think that that's like the biggest level of scale and effectiveness you can sort of get to. But I do think that like all these other little elements that we're trying to work on does sort of, even though it leads to that, I think also helps draw the conclusion closer to that for a lot of humans, because I don't think people who are like, raw production stay in LA necessarily understand how it all leads back to, what those things are. Because like I said, the tax incentives or fixing permitting, those aren't one and dones. Like those are essentially elements or band-aids, but then we have to talk about the bigger issues. Yeah. But I think those bigger issues can be very I don't think that they're overwhelming, but I just don't think everyone always necessarily ties, 1 to 2.
Yeah, I think that that's totally true, right? People think about the issue that's right in front of them or that's most deeply affecting them. It's the same reason, right, why crews try to charge more. Well, I'm not working as much, so I need more money. Okay, well, why are we not working? It's like, what are the other things? Still not associating things cost more, which is why you need more money. Why do things cost more where we live? None of those people are probably getting involved in their local government or paying attention if they're even voting or any of those things, right? And so it's like, we're all guilty of that.
Absolutely. A perfect example of this is we're going to be having a town council hall soon because the county of Los Angeles has 88 cities in it. Over 40 of those have special requirements for filming. So some of those town councils have made decisions that are over a decade old. So that could be things like you can't shoot after dark, or you can't be on the sidewalk for more than X hours, whatever these special requirements are. But again, even the town councils haven't necessarily looked at how they're affecting the industry. So people who are in production live in towns who have special requirements, which makes the permitting or shooting more difficult in their own neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, but again, I don't expect everyone to even know that they have a damn town council. I didn't even know I had a town council. So like, these are all things that like, I'm not like assuming you should just know, but if we can bring more awareness to these things and help level the playing field a bit more and get more people involved, because all those things ladder up to the bigger things.
Absolutely.
And when is the town hall going to be?
We're in the middle of scheduling them right now. We're thinking that they'll probably be at the beginning of June, because we do need to do it regionally throughout the county, because there is over 40 who have special requirements. We were going to think about doing it virtually, but I want to do it regionally and in person, because I just think that lends much more understanding to your community and to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a neighbor thing, ultimately.
Wait, so are you scheduling 40 of these?
No,
or are they going to be grouped together? Okay.
I'm going to do regionally. So there's probably going to be like probably 10.
Wow.
So I'm just
still a huge undertaking.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do 10 nights in a row, essentially. Who wants to volunteer?
These are the ways I get myself in trouble. And I'm like, oh, well.
Alana, I'm saying no for you.
I've also had to say no. I've also had to say no for Alana as well.
Oh my God, it's so bad. Steph's always laughing at me. She's like, pick one. Just pick one. Stop doing all the things. Pick one.
Yeah. Sounds like my husband.
That's incredible, though. And what an undertaking, and also so important. And I think it goes back to this idea of community too, though, right? The more that as a society too, in general, that we can bring things back to our local community and get people to understand what's happening on a local scale and get involved on a local scale, the more people's awareness grows on a larger scale, and we can affect systems, countrywide, statewide, globally. Like it expands our reach if you know that you can affect. It's like that thing where people always talk about you should run for school board because you can actually have a huge amount of influence, and people don't vote in their local elections. Like they don't pay attention to the local policy that's happening, but by bringing things at such a community level and getting to know your neighbors, and all these things are so important, especially in the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
And then to build those relationships too within the production community on that level of like not even knowing who lives in your neighborhood from the production world. And, I can just tell from the Buy Nothing group, depending on what people are giving away and where it came from, when something's like brand new and whatever, you're like, oh, that was from a set. That's kind of funny.
Well, and just also like to the work that you're doing, Pamala, like it's politics is all about nuance and changing systems. You have to get into the nitty-gritty, into paying attention to all of those details that folks might miss or might not be aware of in order to in order to move things forward. And so I just, again, keep that on a Post-it note before you throw your laptop out the window, I guess.
We need you.
Truly.
Truly. I think it all just comes down to just like believing in people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people will move things forward, as we are seeing with, the boycotts and the rallies and all of the things. Like there is power in people. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we jump into the campaign that you've brought us, which I'm very excited to just tear the shit out of this thing, let's quickly review our criteria for you, Pamala, and also for our listeners. So the first thing that we always look at is alignment.
Next is partnerships.
Call to action and transparency.
Engagement.
And lastly, optimization and amplification.
So on that note, if you
this is sort of very different.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but I think Steph and I were talking about this before, and that's what makes it so interesting and why we weren't like pick something else, because I think this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, right? The importance of these stories and what you're putting out in the world.
Yes.
And especially when you are including a celebrity or an influencer or somebody that people look up to, and how much more these messages get sucked into subconsciously into somebody's view of the world and what's good, what's not good, what's okay, what's not okay, all of the things. So I think it is actually really important, and we might not hit on the criteria the traditional way that we do. And I think that that's okay too. We think that this is going to be a really interesting discussion in a totally different way, and we're totally down.
Yeah, great.
And the thing I was going to say about our criteria too is that what a cool opportunity to be able to really talk to how this could have been done so much better. And so, yeah, let's jump in.
So on that note, if you can please tell us about the campaign that you brought, and then a little creative summary in case somebody hasn't seen it before, just kind of overall like what happens in the spot so that people can wrap their brains around it. If they haven't seen it, we'll also link to it in the show notes.
Great. Okay. So I picked a Mountain Dew commercial that is just meant to sell Mountain Dew. It is not trying to do anything other than sell Mountain Dew. And it is from 2 years ago. It features LeBron James. And it basically what it is it uses the advertising trope of magic elixir. So what would LeBron be if he didn't drink his Mountain Dew? And then essentially it cuts to all of these vignettes of him not being LeBron. And then it basically turns and says, but thank God he drank that magic elixir and he is LeBron to be the LeBron that we know. And then it shows several vignettes of him being magical because it's a magic elixir. And it does dive at the end. I will say at the end, it does bring in a lot of the good that LeBron has put out into the world for sure. So I'm not going to knock those elements because he has done so much for the community and, you know, really provided kind of an inside understanding of being a great dad and family man and all that stuff. But I would say everything leading up to that and even involving some of that is also plays into the idea of what I call punching down. Mm-hmm. I don't think any advertising should punch down. I think as a human in general, you should never be fucking punching down. And I think that this commercial emulates that to the 100th degree. And again, like we were saying earlier in this episode, is what are the messages that we're putting out by saying these things? So to walk you through, if LeBron didn't drink his magic elixir, Mountain Dew, he would be a guy who sits on his couch, not working really hard at his workouts, watching cartoons. He would be going to the laundromat and doing laundry.
God forbid.
God forbid. And he would also maybe have even become a salsa dance instructor. But thank God he drank the magic elixir. So now there's 5 of him working out, being super tough. A clip of him slamming the basketball and dunking it from one of his Laker games. And then also cutting to like being able to affect his community and also being a good family man. But the whole you can hear the undercurrent of you're not good enough as a normal human being. You're not good enough as a man if you're not a superstar like LeBron James. I mean, the numbers on this in itself is like the amount of people who go from the NCAA to the NBA is 1.1% of people.
Yeah.
So players. So the fact that you're punching down at the working class, the fact that you're punching down amongst roles, because laundry, got LeBron James doing laundry at a public laundromat where you put coins in. Right. Like, to me, this ad infuriates the shit out of me because it says punching down. That's where I feel like toxic masculinity gets emulated as well, because you're not good enough as a man unless you can be this superstar or have this magic elixir. You would get stuck doing a woman's job of laundry at a public laundromat because you don't have enough money.
Right.
The joy of you teaching salsa to a bunch of average humans is not good enough. So that is, to me, like we have such an opportunity with advertising to use our voice and power and narrative to lift people up. And this to me is like the most terrible, one of the most terrible psychological, subtly, so subtle. And this isn't the only one. We're just picking this one. There's lots of times we use the magic elixir and do various things like this. But what a missed opportunity to highlight men and LeBron and the efforts and, you know, while still fitting in soda.
The irony of it all. You're selling a sugary drink that is literally terrible for you. That no athlete should literally ever be promoting, because if you actually follow nutrition, this would not be something you would consume.
Oh, but Alana, it does have vitamin A and vitamin C.
And then if you look at who the consumers are, generally speaking, for these sorts of beverages, who do they always sell to? Working class people, right? Like, who's drinking this? Who can, like, because they make these drinks affordable, like the healthier, quote, whatever version of an energy drink would not be affordable. So you're like literally putting down the people that you want to buy your beverage. How does that work?
Is like, but this is also how you create the psychology of being closer to power. You know, like that's why, you know, that's why I feel like the Triangle of Sadness film was such a great, interesting film, because the closer you get to power, the more you flip into that position, because that's what we've been taught to do. It's what society teaches us to do. So it's, you think you're uplifting people to want to become something, but what you're actually doing is you are just buying into the tropes of power.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, to be fair, and I know we talked about how the LeBron James I Promise School is featured in the spot, but also, couldn't there be a tie-in with the school and with, you know, could PepsiCo make a donation to LeBron's family foundation in order to keep the school, you know, give school supplies, or, you know, some other initiative to kind of slightly redeem / tie in a little bit more organically to the good work that's being done. Although I know the I Promise School has also come under scrutiny and like, is it actually doing anything? How does that
I don't
work
know.
with
I haven't really thought of
schools?
I didn't think of that angle, because I have to say, I'm going to assume on the backside that of what we don't know, that they probably did to a certain degree. Like they probably had to pay for the rights of the use to be able to publicize the school in the commercial, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Who knows what happens on the backside?
Yeah.
I guess if I had to think about it from the front facing of it and tying that in, I think as a consumer, that would probably have felt performative in a lot of ways. But I agree that I don't think so. Here's my issue with Cannes Lions in the last 4 years. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a big statement here. Is that the good washing, where everything has become a good campaign, campaign for good. It's particularly not last year, but the 2 years before that.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we're advertisers. You need to sell shit. Like you need to advertise stuff. Just being like, oh, we created this thing, or we put this tagline at the end saying we did something good. I think it actually doesn't behoove advertising to have done that and have gone so far into that direction, because what happens is you go, it's the got you system, in the sense of, we did this for this award show because that was the theme. But ultimately, we don't actually know what we're really getting into, and we're not investing in it, and we're not bringing in partners who already understand the space.
Yeah.
And the people who have already understand the space have been doing this shit for years. And the fact that you can't support them because you need to create your own fucking thing so that you can get a glass lion or even the Grand Prix, like to me, does the creativity of advertising a disservice and waters down what we do in that business.
Yep.
And I think we've seen this. The creative evaluation of advertising has sunk dramatically. Yes, partially because of AI and all these other things, but it's because I think that I don't know if it's like a thing where like we self-hate, so we need to feel like we're doing something more important. But like at the end of the day, advertising is to sell shit. Like that's our job. Yeah. So I don't think you necessarily need to pull in all of those factors. I just think that if you're going to be in advertising and sell shit, don't punch down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also true. On the can note, I distinctly remember being on a purpose-driven project pre-COVID where all the creatives talked about on set was winning an award at Cannes. And I was like, that's not the point of why we're doing this. And I've had so many conversations since then with people at different agencies when I would bring that up. And somebody once told me about this whole underground economy of people creating ads that don't even do anything. They'll have these like super creative, life-changing ideas that are literally created to, you know, whether it's a product or whatever, somehow tied to these companies, but they win awards, but they never were actually really out in the world. And the intention of bringing said idea to life in a meaningful way never actually happens. So creating some new innovative technology or new innovative way of doing things and then never implementing it to change lives, what is the point? To that point, yeah, just go back to selling people shit they don't need because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like that's what's going to pay the bills, and just go do that if you're not going to actually follow through.
Yeah. And then you have the ones who create it for 6 months or create it for 3 months and present it as if they changed the world.
Right.
And then if you go back to look it up, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so what you basically have done is you've jumped into people's lives who are in need and created a false hope and a false promise while undermining the organizations that have been doing this work for years and trying to make progress. It would have been so much more interesting if you have taken your money and supported any of these organizations trying to do something and actually made a difference and actually tracked that. That to me is award winning.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that gets me so annoyed about the impact world when it comes to advertising.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately that's all cause washing. It's not real. It's fake. And so yes, agreed. I do think, I mean, it's interesting in the sense of the LeBron spot, to go back to that, to think about what that would have looked like if they didn't punch down and how creatively they could have approached this differently. And what a concept to actually just celebrate people instead of putting people down to raise themselves up.
Right. And also, what would it look like if you juxtaposed LeBron James with an everyday working class person and celebrated them as well? And you know, getting back to the work that you're doing with Mavenverse, Pamela, I think it's like that like legitimately taking the influencer out and bringing community in and making community the influencer in this case. And that's
bingo.
That's how we punch up, not punch down.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you could be like LeBron in your own community.
Yeah.
You drink this. This is how you elevate your own life. Not.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just think that there's so much healing and joy within these groups that we join. Yeah. And I think ultimately that's how we bring, you know, a lot of empathy and neighborliness back in some ways, and do it with the support of brands who are trying to make a connection with them.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite type of books to read is speculative fiction. And speculative fiction is essentially sci-fi that envisions a different world. And back to what you were saying, I think stuff at the very, very beginning is sort of like sometimes people need help envisioning a world. Actually, I think it was on your Jonathan Jacobs things, like they need help envisioning what that world could look like, because they can't always get there themselves for, you know, a variety of reasons. But that's why I think speculative fiction is so interesting in that sense. So in some ways, it's like, can't advertising also play in that realm?
Yeah. Yeah. Purpose Disruptors had a whole campaign that they did working with agencies across the UK. I think it was just in the UK about that. And I forget the name of the campaign, but it was like imagining the future.
Oh, no. I'm thinking
and it was like climate related, but what our worlds could look like without this world of overconsumption, what our world would look like if we actually lived in conjunction with the environment, you know, all those sorts of things, and did a full proper brief and all of that. But again, they're obviously still more advanced than us in climate. And Ayana has the book, What If We Get It Right? I don't know if you've read that one, but I think that's all speculative fiction vibes as well. I haven't read it yet either.
Great title, though. What if we got it right? That's a great title.
Isn't there like so many things about life? Like yeah. Because otherwise, all we talk about is what if we get it wrong. There is so much of that sci-fi too, right? About the end of the planet. But what if we actually figured out a way to live together? What if we could live with our neighbors? What if we could live with our global neighbors? What if look, all of these things. Why can't advertising? It used to be aspirational, right? What happened to that? Why can't it be aspirational in a positive way? Where it's things that
it's much more fun it's much more fun to set everything on fire.
Where's the joy in that?
Oh, I know, it's terrible. I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, we all need more of that in our lives, but anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. I didn't really think I was going to be such a civic lesson in this episode. Sorry.
Okay. I also think, but I think that's also really important and really interesting. And I learned so much when we did the Her event from the civic side. You know, we have to get it where we can. I think it's really fascinating to learn all of these things and uncover the underbelly of the beast.
Well, do we have any other missed opportunities for good here, or have we done it and this is just a unredeemable piece of content?
I mean, I think it's broad strokes. You know, obviously we're talking in broad strokes. You know, I understand what an ad agency or internal agency goes through to kind of sell something through, especially when it comes to a super celebrity like a LeBron and a major brand like Mountain Dew. So it's not without empathy and understanding. But I also just think there's like this shift in mindset that you sort of have to create. And I think that we're all really smart people. And I think if we have set an intention for ourselves, I think that we can be smarter about what we produce and put out in the world. And it's kind of interesting to see how many rounds and how many people that went through and probably never even noticed what we're talking about.
Entirely.
And probably, yeah. And so it's interesting to me if anyone, again, you know, this is a spot from 2 years ago, but I'd be interested to see if people ever look back, like if the creative team ever looked back and heard what we were saying and were able to relate and understand what we're saying versus like, we don't believe that, we're just selling something. It's like, it's fun. Why do you have to ruin something that's fun? And it's just like, I wonder if like everybody needs like a simple psychology of working class workshop.
Well, I think that is, I think, one of the interesting pieces of this, right? Though it's in this world where DEI is getting cut back across, you know, any company, doesn't matter what. Advertising was already slow on that to begin with anyhow. But the being thoughtful, not just in the way we think through creative, but thoughtful about the world in which a piece is living in and then the market has and how it lives on. It's the same responsibility that you're expecting a business to have with their plastic bottle. If you're going to have them think about the end use of it, what's the end use of your creative and how does that impact somebody? And so it's having people be aware enough, right, to be able to even know to look for something like this, because it might blow people's minds that was even a concept, right? People might not even know to think about something like that. And so being responsible as an agency for also supporting your teams to be able to have kind of candid conversations and dive into some of these sorts of topics so that people are just thinking about it when they work. Because otherwise people are so in it, they're not even thinking about the way things are affecting or showing up in the outside world, and being able to have people feel comfortable to then say something, even if they do notice something is a little wonky, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Absolutely. I certainly, and I should have done this research before, but I wonder how many women were in the room along the pipeline.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a wild guess and say not very many based on the general statistics of the advertising world.
Probably not. Yeah.
On the production side, for that matter, too. Let's just call it a.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to production, it's a little late, but you know.
Yeah. It's interesting because you touched upon something that, you know, having after run Free to Work for 5 years, which was a nonprofit in the advertising, film, and TV land.
Yeah.
And now afterwards, in like the collapse of DEI or whatever you want to call that, this phase, I sort of have this like unpopular opinion, and maybe it's not unpopular, but because you talked about envisioning like, it's very hard for people who are in it to necessarily envision what it could be or the effect that you're having. And so my opinion is, I think that we have been held up for too long by philanthropic organizations who have been helping on the ground organizations fill the gaps. And I think now that those things are collapsing, I'm hoping that the general public will move towards needing these things as rights in our federal constitution.
Snaps.
And so, and it's not to say like, oh, nonprofits shouldn't exist or whatever it is. And I think people are so saddened and outraged by the amount of philanthropics that are pulling back and not doing what they supposedly need to do. But at the end of the day, those are all run by rich people who are just doing it for tax write-offs and to have their name on buildings or to look good. A lot of them. Yeah. Some I would, not all of them. But I would say, again, we are depending on philanthropic money to help us fill the gaps of what should be everyday rights.
Yeah.
And ultimately, because they keep filling the gaps, we don't think that we could be asking for these things as rights. We think that this is the work that can only be done in the shadows of philanthropy, which we all know has like a million barbed wires as we try to crawl through the process.
Yeah.
So I'm
Talk about red
hoping,
tape.
yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that we become so fed up and we realize how much of a gap is there because now all these organizations can't do what they need to do, that then we actually start rising up together and start demanding these things from our actual government.
Yeah.
Preach.
I feel like this is such a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Literally. Thank you so very much for joining us. This was an incredible conversation, as always. We appreciate you. Where can we send folks to learn more about you and your work?
You can send eventually to Mavenverse. We're still working on getting that up, but that's eventually. But I do have PamalaBuzicKim.com. We have stayinla.org. All of those things. I'm on LinkedIn. Like all of those things. It's all good. I just hope that, everyone just takes all of this in and all of the episodes and all of the good work that you do and kind of understand how they can fit it into their own lives. Because we're not asking everybody to be a justice warrior at the front lines of a protest. We're just asking people to just create more of a space for who they want to be within this realm. Because there are lots of different types of social justice warriors. It could be the copywriter on a magic elixir spot, or it could be somebody, or it could be a crew member who is fighting for their town. And so I think, and there's also like armchair activists. Like if you're not good at being public, maybe your thing is to be behind your social media account and bringing awareness. There's still lots of effort and good things to be done with that. So I just want to say thank you to you both for putting yourselves out there, for making this running and keeping the good conversations going with so many different folks that you've been bringing in, because it really does think I help your audiences to just kind of find their moment and their places in it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's very sweet.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamala, for joining us and shining a light, learning from those who are doing it well and reducing the missed opportunities for good.
We want to hear from you, our listeners. What campaigns are you seeing that are doing it well? Who would you like to see us interview? And what campaigns would you like us to audit?
Thank you for joining us on our mission to revolutionize the industry that we love.
Missed Opportunities for Good is a production of Aligned for Impact and Love of Good.